Well, it's January 25th, so guess what that means for January of Suck? Christmas time, yeah, monthly, whatever, it's been a tradition, so hey, why not? So, what am I doing now? Well, since it's Christmas time, but in January, it's the Star Wars Holiday Special. Yeah, I know this is technically not a movie, but it's long enough to be one, so whatever. You know what? My thing, my rules, whatever. And well, after having finally seen it, it's definitely as bad as people say it is. I don't think it's quite the worst thing that I've seen Star Wars attached to. That's as far as I'm concerned, that's still the connecting because seeing the original movies done as a dance off thing. I mean, while funny, is kind of insulting to the original movie. So yeah, I'd say that's the worst thing that's ever happened. In terms of movies, though, I mean, I haven't seen the Ewok movies, so I'm not sure how those are. Haven't seen the Ewok cartoons either, so I'm not sure how those are. Though it's definitely not better than episode 8, as some people might tell you, so that's something. Now, what's this holiday special about? Well, it's not really Christmas, it's Life Day. So, Chewbacca is trying to get home in time to celebrate Life Day with his family. His family that we've never heard of and will never hear of again. That being Lumpy, his son, Mala, his wife, and I forget what was the grandfather's name. Maybe the grandfather was Lumpy. You know what? I did not really care enough to memorize this. I know there's going to be a lot of Star Wars fans like, oh, how do you not memorize this? I'm like, look, I have a life. It's not a great life, but it's a life. So I can't keep track of all these names, all right? Um, Now, if there's one thing that's kind of amusing about this is that it's definitely proof that Star Wars was willing to experiment a lot more before they knew what exactly it was going to be, because this was directly after the first movie, and yeah, there's so many weird things that would not fly in a Star Wars project today. Like even that connecting still has its limits. Like this thing has musical numbers, but it's done with things that are just so not Star Wars like you get like disco stars and whatnot, and it's just like yeah, this would not be a Star Wars thing. Um, I'm trying to remember what's his name, but um, throughout this entire thing, you get what's his name, Harvey Korman. I think it's his name. His name is Harvey Korman, and I'm sorry. Look, like I've said before, I do these things right after watching the movie, so I'm just working off of what I can think of right away. So I'm sorry if I'm forgetting the name. I think it's Harvey Korman, and if it's not, I'll try to correct myself throughout the editing of this. But yeah, Star Wars Holiday Special. It's bad, but it's mostly because it's boring. I mean, there's some amusing stuff out of how weird it is. Like, there's a whole bit where the grandpa of Chewie's dad, so to speak, is watching this girl, and it's a musical number, but it feels like he's watching a porno. And I'm not the first one to acknowledge that. I know other people brought that up, and I was like, okay, maybe they're overreacting. And then watching it, I'm like, okay, they weren't overreacting. It's definitely a porno. I mean, you don't get the sexual stuff, but you do get. Sorry, Chewie, the grandpa Wookie, just reacting to this in a way where he's like, yeah, he's definitely enjoying himself a little too much here. But okay, so the bulk of it is really more on Lumpy the kid. Again, I think that's the kid's name. Maybe it's the grandpa's. Like I could be mixing them up. Uh, the kid is pretty much just watching a bunch of stuff, playing video games, and it's all weird stuff. At one point, there's an animated segment, the most famous segment of this entire special, which is the first time that Boba Fett was on film. Well, of course, animated wise, or well, in general, it was his literal first appearance, um, which is often touted as the best part of this thing. I mean, I could kind of see it. It's definitely the part that feels the most Star Wars, and it feels like a cute short, but it's still bad. Like not just because it's badly animated, but because it's just a nothing short. It's basically just hey, someone's sick, and Boba Fett offers to help because he's their friend, and he constantly says, "I'm your friend, 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 friend." Chewbacca goes along with him just because he doesn't trust them, and yeah, I mean he's right to not trust him because it turns out that he's working for the Empire and was planning to set up a trap for them. So it's all that's all that is. I mean, there's really not much that happens other than just a reveal that Boba Fett is a traitor. Other than that, like I said, it's a nothing short. And yeah, beyond that, you just get just weird stuff like Harvey Korman dressed up as a woman doing a cooking show where he's saying stir whip, and I know a lot of people love that one, stir whip, stir whip, stir whip. Um, you get B. Arthur as a bartender, and again, this is just stuff that would not fly in a Star Wars thing these days, just because it's not Star Wars enough. It's just a little too weird and a little too off for what the universe has become known for. Um, she gets a musical number. Some of these, I mean, okay, they're not. None of these are really good musical numbers, but you're like, okay, well, at least the people are trying, so that kind of makes it a little charming. Not by much, but whatever. By the end of the movie or special, I mean, Chewie and Han get home. They stop the stormtroopers because there were stormtroopers at Chewie's place, trying to figure out whether or not there were traitors, and I don't know. At the end, there's a big musical number. It's supposed to be the whole um, Day of Life song, your Christmas song, Happy Go Lucky, Hooray, Go Home, whatever. Like I said, more than anything, this is just a boring special. It's not as bad as people have said it is, but it's, I don't know, not really all that funny. Like I thought, at the very least, it was gonna be one of those so bad it's good kind of things. And some people have kind of built it up that way, and I'm like, yeah, I mean, there's some stuff that's kind of funny. Like I said, the Harvey Korman stuff is, certainly weird enough, and it's kind of funny in that way. But most of the time, I was just close to falling asleep, so I can't really say I enjoyed this one. If you're a Star Wars fan, of course, you're gonna watch it, or you probably already have watched it. So I'm not gonna say much there, but otherwise, I wouldn't recommend it at all. The only thing I can say is that I probably should have watched the version with the commercials, because I know most people, when they watch this, they watch the one with the commercials, and that probably would have made it a little more enjoyable just to see the commercials of that time period. I decided not to go with that, though, just because I felt like, I just want to get this thing done with, and I'm really not talking about the commercials, I'm talking about the special itself. I guess maybe in that way, maybe I'll revisit it at some point just to watch the commercials, but otherwise, it's bad. It's mostly boring, so it's not enraging mad. I mean, there's no way this is gonna get me as mad as Beer for My Horses, where everything's just super racist, even though there are some uncomfortable stuff in here, but nothing to the point that I'm really that offended by, so, can't really say much. It's Star Wars. It's a bad Star Wars, so oh well.